Pushback without positioning is just noise your organization learns to ignore. You've been in that meeting. The decision coming down from above is wrong. Not politically inconvenient, actually wrong. You know it. Two people around the table know it. And you say something. You frame it carefully, you pick your moment, and for about 48 hours you feel like you did the right thing. Then nothing changes. And 6 months later, when the decision lands badly, nobody remembers you flagged it. What they remember is that you were difficult in Q3. This video is about why that keeps happening. Not because you're pushing back wrong, because you don't understand yet what pushback actually is, and what it costs you when you do it the way you were taught. Premise: most managers treat pushback as a communication problem. They think the variable is delivery, tone, timing, framing. Get those right, the thinking goes, and the message lands. Reframe: that assumption is wrong at the root. Pushback isn't a communication event. It's a credibility transaction. Every time you push back on a decision, you are spending something, not just political capital in the abstract sense, but something more specific, the organization's working model of who you are. And that model isn't built in the moment you speak. It's built over every interaction that came before it. This is the part most managers miss. They prepare the argument. They don't prepare the relationship. So when the moment arrives, they're trying to make a withdrawal from an account they haven't been funding. The second-order problem is subtler. When your pushback gets dismissed, you tend to assume the content wasn't compelling enough. So next time, you build a better case. More data, more precision. But the organization wasn't evaluating your argument. It was evaluating you. And a stronger argument from someone without credibility doesn't gain more ground. It creates more friction. Move. The behavioral shift here isn't about how you push back. It's about what you do in the 90 days before you need to. Credibility is built through demonstrated judgment, not through being agreeable, but through being right about smaller things consistently. When you call a risk and it materializes, you note it clearly. When a project goes well because of a call you made, you don't hide that. You're not lobbying. You're building a track record that makes your dissent legible when it counts. Pushback lands when the organization already trusts the instrument making the reading. Premise: assume the credibility exists. Assume you've built the track record. There's still a failure mode that takes down experienced managers, and it's the one they're least likely to see in themselves. Reframe. Most pushback is framed as opposition. I disagree. I see it differently. I think this is a mistake. Even when it's delivered calmly, the structure is adversarial. An adversarial framing triggers a predictable organizational response. The person being pushed back on stops evaluating the argument and starts defending the decision. You haven't created a moment of reconsideration. You've created a contest. And in a contest between a middle manager and the decision that's already in motion, the decision wins almost every time. The hidden cost here is significant. Every time pushback gets read as opposition, you train the people above you to brace when you speak. Over time, your input gets categorized before it's heard. You become the person who slows things down, not because your ideas are wrong, but because the pattern you've established makes your voice feel like resistance rather than rigor. The paradox is that the managers who push back most forcefully often have the least influence on outcomes. Force and influence move in opposite directions past a certain threshold. Move. The shift is structural, not tonal. Frame your pushback as a problem you're solving together, not a position you're defending against theirs. That means leading with the outcome you're both trying to protect, not the decision you're trying to reverse. You're not saying the direction is wrong. You're surfacing a risk to something they also care about. That reframe isn't softening the message. It's changing the dynamic from contest to collaboration. The content can be identical. The organizational response will not be. Premise. There's a version of pushback that looks like courage and functions like career management. Most managers who've been around long enough have learned to perform dissent without actually exercising it. Reframe. This is the most dangerous pattern because it feels like integrity while operating as self-protection. You raise the concern in the meeting. You're on record. If the decision goes badly, you can point to the moment you flagged it. But you didn't push hard enough to actually change anything. Because pushing hard enough carries real risk, and somewhere you calculated that the risk wasn't worth it. The organization learns this pattern faster than you think. The people above you can feel the difference between someone who is genuinely trying to alter a course and someone who is creating a paper trail. And once they've read you as the second type, your pushback stops registering as signal. It becomes ambient noise. You've trained them to wait you out. What this produces, and this is the part most managers never examine, is a team that mirrors the same behavior downward. Your direct reports watch how you handle disagreement with power. If they see you perform dissent without risk, they learn that's what professionalism looks like. You've now built a team that tells you what you want to hear, and you've done it without ever asking them to. Move. The change in practice is one of commitment, not communication. Before you raise a concern, decide what you're actually willing to do if it's ignored. Not as a threat, as a personal line. Are you willing to escalate? To document formally? To say explicitly that you believe this decision will cause harm and have that on record in a way that can't be walked back? If the answer is no to all of it, you're not pushing back. You're registering discomfort. Those are different acts, and treating them as equivalent is how you slowly lose your own credibility with yourself, which is the one cost that doesn't show up on any organizational chart, but eventually shows up in everything. There's a version of you that never gets sidelined, agrees when it matters, stays quiet when it doesn't, and pushes back just hard enough to feel principled without ever actually threatening anything. That version of you will have a long, stable, forgettable career. Influence requires that the people above you know with some certainty that your dissent is real, that it has weight behind it, that it costs you something to raise it, and that you'll raise it anyway. The organization doesn't sideline people who push back. It sidelines people it has learned to predict.